What is up, guys? Edgy Outdoors coming to you with a new knife video. This is the Spyderco Parata. This is a brand new knife from Spyderco. Before we get into that, I want to remind you guys, hit that sub button and the notification button. Once we hit 500 subs, I am doing a giveaway of a Para 3 lightweight. So to be part of that, please hit the sub button and the notification will let you know when that video goes live for the giveaway. Anyway, back to the Parata. The Parata, which is Latin for prepared, according to Spyderco and all their documentation that they've done. The Parata is a Paul Alexander design knife. It is I think it's like the fourth. I know he did like the Silver Axe and the Ouroboros or something like that. Anyway, he's done a few different designs for Spyderco. This knife is brand new, just came out, just started shipping this week actually, I think, in July of 2019. Very cool knife, big belly, big blade. Actually looks and seems bigger than it really is. When you hold it up, and I do some size comparisons coming up, you're going to see it's really not that much bigger than some of the other knives, even though it seems like it should be. So this blade is VG10 steel. It is a big Skinner style blade that is, I mean, it's beautiful with this big VG10 steel, big flat ground blade, fairly thin behind the edge. As you get to the tip, it gets a little thicker, as you know, kind of normal. Huge spidey hole. The overall length of this knife is 8 inches. This blade itself is 3.46 inches, which makes it legal in my state and some of the cities out there. Make sure you know your knife laws. The cutting edge is 3.27 inches, so you're getting a lot of cutting edge on this blade. Considering you've got a huge finger choil, you still get 3.27 out of 3.46. So very efficient cutting surface for what you've got. Beautiful finger choil on this guy. Just makes it great to be able to slice with this guy. This thing is meant to slice. It really is. Paul Alexander's an engineer, and I'll tell you, he knew how to make this thing slice. This front swedge here, the swedge on the top, definitely gives you a pointy feeling, stabby feeling knife. Just a beautiful shape of that blade. Like, that blade is just, it's fairly elegant in the design. Not really any flat spots, all belly in this blade. The handle is G10. The knife is tip up, left or right carry, and the locking mechanism is called the stop lock. So this is the first time Spyderco has put the stop lock in one of their knives. It's a patented lock, and you could see there is like if you can see in there, can't tell if you can see in there or not, but there is there's like a gap in there. So it's like this, and the blade comes in and fits in, and it kind of locks in like this, and so that's where you get your lock. And then when you push down on this, it releases it so the blade can then turn. So once it goes up here, it clips, and then you push up on it, you push up on it, and it releases the lock. So it goes inside that blade. So it's kind of, and this is my term, not anybody else's, it kind of reminds me of a combination between a back lock and a compression lock, because it really is going inside of, you know, the blade to create that stop, instead of being something that just hooks it on the outside like a back lock would be. So it's a back lock because on the top, and then almost like a compression lock the way it goes in and compresses inside. So kind of interesting. I can't wait to get some reviews and, you know, see what other YouTubers do on the stop lock itself. It should be interesting. It has, you know, from the factory, no blade play up or down or side to side. The back lock, I will say, is extremely tight. So you do get a good fidget factor with this, because you lift up and it flicks down. You can also lift up, flick it out, flick it in, flick it out, flick it in, like a compression lock or a, you know, axis lock or whatever. But it is kind of hard to flick open. It's just not as gentle to flick open, because it is putting a lot of pressure on the, you know, as a detent. And the Spidey flick is really hard, because my finger tends to sit on top of where this, so it's kind of pushing down on it and not letting the blade free. So there is still a good fidget factor. Now, I will tell you the one thing I've noticed fidgeting with this guy, because I love to fidget with these knives, with all my knives. I even do it with, a stinking backlock knife. It drives my wife crazy. I'll just be sitting here doing this, fidgeting with my backlock knife. This particular lock, man, my thumb is just getting smashed because I've been flipping it all day long while I've been working. So, playing with it, and it's getting kind of, tip of my thumb is getting kind of sensitive. So, other than that though, pretty cool knife. Very ergonomic. The finger choil is great. You just have that ability to be able to slice with this guy. And that's really, it's not a stabby knife, it is a slicey knife. Designed to just slice through everything. So, I think you could use it in the kitchen, probably not chopping, but you could use it for meat preparing. It is stainless, so that's great. Some fit and finish things, I will say, I didn't like how, this lock is high pressure. Not ridiculously or absurd, but like when you start doing it a lot, like you start to feel it. It's strong pressure, so I don't know if they could do it any other way. That might be the way it has to be done, but and quite frankly, it's a good thing if I'm using the knife. I want it to be locked in. Everything else is pretty good. It is fairly centered from the factory. The blade came pretty sharp from the factory. It's shaven sharp. So it is a sharp knife from the factory. Overall, it's a pretty cool blade. Use case for this, and I'll tell you how I would probably use this, or how I'm going to use this, and then we'll talk about kind of the EDC of it, because a lot of us do this for EDC. This blade is something that I could see going in someone's pack or pocket when they're out going hunting. This is a skinning shaped blade. The sliciness of this guy is just built for doing some hardcore skinning. The fact that the blade can penetrate, but being able to not rip into, when cleaning out the animal, I think that's going to be a benefit as well. So I do think that a big time use of this knife will be in the hunting community. Now, does that mean that you can't use this as an everyday carry knife? I do not think that's the case. If we compare that, let's do some overall size comparisons real quick. So there we have the Parata. Now we have a Paramilitary 2. Okay, notice blade length similar, handle length, the overall length similar, and just for grins and giggles, we'll put the Benchmade grip, full-size grip in there. Okay, so you'll see, comparing it to other full-size knives, I would say the size, is competitive, right? Now, you compare it to the blade, and man, you got way more blade here. But here's the funny thing. We close this guy up, close up the PM2, and we stack these two on top of each other, and you start to see there's not, and in fact, when I go this way, the Parata is, with all that blade, is really almost smaller in pocket than the Paramilitary 2. It's almost smaller. Like, it just, even though it's a monster blade compared, to, the other knives, or at least it seems like a monster blade, right? It really doesn't have the characteristics of a monster blade. It's got the cutting edge, and it's got the, blade of a big knife, but it really isn't that overwhelming of a huge knife, which I think is really cool. You can feel and look like you have a big knife without actually having to have a big knife. And then when you talk about the fact that this thing is under 3 ounces, let's look at this guy. Under 3 ounces. We're at 2.9, it's not a very flat surface, 2.8 to 2.9 ounces. This guy is really made to be carried. If you're hunting, you can put it in your pocket. If you're going around town, you can, put it in your pocket. I think overall, it's what I think is going to be interesting, and as I carry this and, use it a little bit more, it'll be interesting to see how useful that big old giant belly with no flat spot blade is, and how much I'm going to want something that is a little less belly and a little, you know, straighter edge. You know, for the cutting I do, I probably won't see much of a difference to where it would work just fine, right? But, you know, it'll be interesting to see how useful it is, or how much I would be like, man, I wish I had, you know, a chaparral in my pocket, because they're smaller and, you know, a little bit pointier blade, or, you know, a PM2 or a grip or a bug out. It'll just be interesting to see how effective I see that blade geometry. So far I'm impressed with it. It's done a number of tools just in things that I found around the house, cut up a little bit of cardboard with it, you know, cut open some other packages that we got today. But, you know, overall, for the use that I do, I think it's effective. We'll see how effective it is after it's in your pocket for a while. And the key to me is, do you wish you were carrying something else? I think that's really going to tell me, you know, if that blade is what I want. So anyway, that is the Spyderco Parata, guys. Pretty cool blade. Fit and finish is pretty good. I think, you know, overall this is a cool knife. I think Blade HQ has these on sale. Let me look here. 100, not on sale, but for sale, for 100 and basically 178.75 is what it is. So, you know, you are getting VG10 and G10, you know, and a fairly sizable blade. You know, I guess, you know, especially Spyderco did this price increase in everything that they do, and, you know, some of these, you know, I would say if this thing was more along the lines of 130, 140, I think it would be probably a slam dunk, go get it. At 180, you know, I mean, I think you really have to know what you're going to get out of this blade shape, know if it's useful. You have to really love the design. Pricing might be odd, but I love how Spyderco pushes the design of some of their knives. You know, they don't make everything look like this, or a titanium version of this, or, you know, I mean, the Griptilian's cool. Love the Melperdue Griptilian. I love the paramilitary. But, you know, the fact that Spyderco takes these blades and takes them to, you know, just a different place, I think is refreshing. I think that's why, you know, I collect knives in general, is the ability to have, you know, this variation in blades. And, you know, when you pull this out, somebody's like, whoa, that's a cool pocket knife. And I think that's what we like. You know, it's not just the material. I think, you know, you have to take into account the creativity in what you're buying. While it's a tool, I do think there is a design element that is worth money, that, you know, may not otherwise be the case in something that was a little more generic, if you will. Although this is 20 CV, which I do love. Anyway, thanks guys, I appreciate it. Again, hit that sub button, hit the thumbs up button, and make sure you keep your blade sharp.